Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for joining me once again and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm just going to continue with my existing CD collection as per usual for now. So that's what I'm going to do, talking about one of my favorite bands of all time, and actually the first death metal band I ever heard in my life when I was about 14 years old. So where I'm up to in the alphabet, the band I'm talking about is of course DISMEMBER from Sweden. So one of the most famous, well-established death metal acts from Scandinavia. They've been around since 1988, 89 when the demos came out, and then they were active until 2010 when they decided to stop. But as of a couple of years ago, they reformed with the original lineup. It's been mostly the same members over the years, like 3 core members, I think, but there were some changes, but they've just reunited recently, which is great. Yeah, so I'll go into the reasons why it's my favorite band as I just do this show and tell of my collection. So yeah, it's my DISMEMBER collection. I'm not going to do a ranking discographies because it may surprise you, I don't own all of their albums. I will explain that further. There are a couple that are missing, and the most recent one I never got around to picking it up, but yeah, more of that later. So without further ado, we'll get into the video. So the first album I'm going to talk about today, this is their debut, DISMEMBER's debut. This is Like an Everflowing Stream, complete with the cracked case from the 90s. So I'll just take this out of the cover. Yep, so first of all, awesome cover art. I think this was Dan Seagrave who actually painted this, but yeah, so epic, it's just amazing. Love that album cover. Yep, this album was released in 1991, the band's debut, and it's considered a classic in the genre. And if you're familiar with DISMEMBER, you'll know that what's unique about them is they have this ability to balance brutality and melody at the same time. So I think it's the fact that they're a Swedish band, they incorporate melody, which is really impressive, but at the same time it's really heavy and brutal. So I know there's been a lot of comparisons drawn with Entombed, between DISMEMBER and Entombed, and in fact Nick Anderson played on this album, like the lead guitar solos, I believe. So yeah, there's no denying the influence, but this is going to shock a lot of people. I actually prefer DISMEMBER to Entombed. I just think they're more extreme, more brutal, even though I love Entombed as well, but I just have a preference for this band. So there you go. Yeah, they were sort of inspired by Entombed sound and have retained that over the years. But yeah, this is just a brilliant album. So epic, incredibly heavy production. And like I said, there's a lot of melody and brutality, just like very memorable songs, like brilliant songwriting from this band. It's got 8 tracks and I like all of them, so fantastic. So Override of the Overture, it starts with that crushing sound effect, and then it goes into that buzzsaw guitar and melody, and then you're just immediately hooked. Great slow riffs in that song as well, where it's just like incorporating that Swedish melody. Soon to Be Dead, that's the next track. I don't mind that song, except it's kind of fast and frantic. It is good towards the end though, there's some sort of memorable parts, but I wouldn't say that's one of my favorite songs, but like at the same time, it's still good. One of my favorite tracks, track 3, Bleed For Me, just some great thrashy riffs in that, and brilliant guitar solo, quite disturbing lyrics for the time as well, so yeah, brilliant, I love that song, that's probably one of my favorites. Then you've got track 4, And So Is Life. That's interesting because they incorporate some more epic sounds using keyboards and that kind of thing, which sort of, maybe that's to do with their Scandinavian heritage, I don't know, sort of like crossing that line over into sort of black metal territory in a way. Even though just because a band uses keyboards doesn't mean they're black metal, this band is definitely not. Then track 5, Dismembered, just great opening track. Just that, sorry, not track, but you know, the opening riff with the melodies in that, it just sticks in your head and it's hypnotic. It goes for about 2 minutes, and then they have these really melodic guitar solos over the top, and then it just suddenly bursts into this brutal onslaught of blast beats and like extreme vocals. Fantastic, excellent lyrics in that song as well, and great vocals by Matti. His surname Karki or Kerki, like it's Swedish, there's an umlaut over the A, so if it's like German I'd say Matti Kerki, but like great vocals in that song. Then you've got track 6, the one that sort of made them controversial, Skin Her Alive, because of the lyrics and the sort of extreme nature of those in the song, but like brilliant song again, like just fast and frantic, great riffs, and like excellent guitar solos at the end, and in the middle actually from Nick Anderson, so that's fantastic. Then after that, What have you got? Sickening Art, which is another lyrically disturbing song, but it's just so rocking, brilliantly catchy riffs, so heavy, and got some sort of Autopsy-esque breakdowns. And that's an interesting thing. This band always cited Autopsy as a big influence, even though they're certainly not a carbon copy, but you can see that influence seep in with several songs. So that's great. And then the last track, appropriately epic, that is In Death Sleep. I just love that song. So just monumental, and that riff at the end, which closes the album, you know, like just so heavy. I won't sing it, you know it, probably, but that is just awesome, just so heavy and chunky and brutal. It's brilliant. So yeah, as you can tell, I like all 8 tracks on this album, some more than others, but it's brilliant. This also has some bonus tracks from the demo. I overlook those generally, like they're a bit vocally more extreme, but yeah, just not for me, don't grab me so much. But the 8 tracks on the actual album, fantastic. So just show you the disc first of all, and have I got it the right way up? So you see the logo there and the title, that's cool. And then, yep, love this photo too. So a bloody street murderer scene, look like a bunch of easygoing guys. And all of the lyrics clearly written. And yeah, as I said, this is the album which, yeah, again, bunch of easygoing guys. And they have here just some snippets from the last song, From Dream to Dream, we have always been like an ever-flowing stream. Yeah, so, yeah, this was the album that put them on the map, partly due to the controversy because of the lyrics, and you know they got taken to court over it, and more on that in a moment. But musically, it's just a death metal classic. It's essential. So if you haven't heard this and you like death metal, go and listen to it right now. Dismember with Like an Ever-Flowing Stream. Okay. Up next, we have a joint release. This is not how they were officially released, but I'm just going to show you. We have Indecent and Obscene and Pieces. Okay, so yeah, this is a combination pack. So obviously they were released separately. So first of all, this is the cover art for Indecent and Obscene. So the ripped open chest and exploding guts and blood. And this is the artwork for the Pieces EP, which actually came before Indecent and Obscene. That's the back of Pieces. So yeah. And here we have the actual disc. So for now, I'm just going to show you this cover because I'm talking about Indecent and Obscene. Oh no, actually I won't. I'll talk about Pieces first because that was the EP that came out. So long story short, some people may have heard this story, but this was the first death metal band I ever heard, this particular release. When I was 14 years old, it was 1993. I remember reading about them in a metal magazine because of the controversy, and we went to a shop, me and my friends, and the guy had the CD. We asked if we could put it on. And that basically changed my life. Like just when I heard that intro, and then it just, this onslaught of brutality came out of the speakers, bursting into a guitar solo and, you know, awesome riffs, extreme vocals. That's when I became a fan of death metal. So yeah, this is the Pieces EP, pretty cool cover artwork. And this is the original artwork. This is the back of Pieces as well. So, you've got 5 tracks on this EP. So the first track is Pieces, like I said, the first death metal song I ever heard. So it's got a lot of memory, nostalgic value for me. Then I Wish You Hell is a great track as well. No, great track, sorry, power cut out there. Great track as well. Yeah, nice vocals in that song. Carnal Tomb slows down to some more sort of heavy, chunky riffs, which are brilliant, and some atmosphere on that song. Then you've got a re-recording of Soon to Be Dead. Like I said, that song's not one of my favorites, but still listenable to me. And then a bonus track, Torn Apart. So great little EP from Dismember, and yeah, as the first release, it really had a great impact on me. So this is the cover for Pieces, and this is the back. And I remember when my friends and I were getting into this, you know, we were only 14 years old. My friend, he said something really funny about this photo. He said, I love the way Maddie's holding the organs. He looks so smug, like it's not a big deal. But, yeah, when you're 14, that kind of stuff is funny. So yeah, great EP. Now we will go and talk about Indecent and Obscene. So this came out after Pieces. This may shock a lot of people, but it's not one of my favorites. Sort of, it could be my least favorite Dismember album. Oh, actually not least favorite, but I remember when I first heard it, it didn't grab me as much as the others, and that's not saying it's a bad album. There's some great songs on here, but it just wasn't as catchy as Like an Everflowing Stream or Pieces initially to me. But it still has some great moments on this album. I just find the only issue with Indecent and Obscene is the fact that there's not as many standout tracks. It just doesn't catch me, it doesn't grab me so much. Oh, by the way, the title of this album, Indecent and Obscene, this was after they were taken to court in England for obscenity charges for their lyrics, and then straight after that, so they got cleared in the case. You know, they weren't convicted, but then straight out after that, the court had described their lyrics as indecent and obscene, so then they named the second album after this. So yeah, that's pretty funny. So the first track, Fleshless, not one of my favorites, but there is a good groovy riff in the midsection of that song. Skinfather is just a classic, like brilliant, brutal death metal, and that riff in the middle, that groove-injected riff, you know, dan, dan, and like when the drums kick in, and then it's just so moshable, it's brilliant. So brilliant guitar solo in that song as well. Yeah, like I said, there's just some songs that don't grab me as much, so I'll just talk about my favorites. Soul Devourer is one of my favorites, like that, when it's this relentless blasting, but then when they stop, when the drums stop, and it's just got this melody, dun, 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 like this haunting riff, it's so cool. Then the drums kick in, and it's got these solid, chunky riffs again, so that's brilliant. And then the outro to that song with the keyboards, it's really eerie, I just love it. So Soul Devourer is great. Reborn in Blasphemy is a song which has grown on me because it's got that sort of classic heavy metal melody feel, which I do like. Also, it's track 7, Eviscerated Bitch, so obviously, in brackets, bitch, that's how it's written. They were obviously on a mission to offend people again, so again, I don't take lyrics of death metal too seriously, but they were just writing these for shock value, obviously. But just some great heavy dissonant chords in that song. Yeah, very extreme vocals from Maddie, and just the double track vocals at the end with the growls and the spoken word. It's quite dark and disturbing. Then it finishes with that eerie piano bit, so brilliant song. Also, yeah, Ninth Circle, Dreaming in Red, they're okay, but yeah, you can see that there's about 3 or 4 tracks which I really like on Indecent Obscene, and the rest are just okay to me, but certainly not a bad album by any stretch. It's still a good album, and I do put it on once in a while, so yeah. So that, just to be clear, I initially talked about the Pieces EP, which is this one, and then Indecent and Obscene. So yeah, Dismember with Indecent and Obscene and Pieces. Alright, coming up next, this is an album which a lot of people disliked and considered a bad album by Dismember. I disagree, respectfully. So here we go, this is Dismember with Massive Killing Capacity. I think the problem that people had with this album is they felt that it was too polished or overproduced, but in my book, that's not a bad thing. If you can hear the music clearly, that's great. And also, I actually really like the music on this album. I will admit, when I first heard this back in the day, it wasn't my favorite to begin with, but it slowly grew on me. And I'll tell you what, on Friday, I listened, this was just a few days ago, I listened to this album, and I thought, shit, there's not a single bad track on this album, so subtly, it could be my favorite Dismember album. I know if people had asked me prior to Friday, what's your favorite Dismember album? By default, I would probably say Like an Everflowing Stream, which is a classic. But yeah, this one is a strong contender. So yeah, this is what saw the band going in a more melodic direction, so incorporating some more traditional heavy metal elements and melody, which has always been a part of Dismember, but they explored that further on this album. And yeah, so it's got a kind of traditional heavy metal vibe, but still mixed with the brutality, which is great. So yeah, the first track, I Saw Them Die, even the band said they thought that song was a bit sort of languid and sluggish, a bit slow, but it's got some great riffs, great vocals from Maddie. Yeah, just down-tuned, which is very much what this is about. Band is about, like down-tuned, sludgy, heavy riffs. So I Saw Them Die is a good song. Massive Killing Capacity, the title track, just great thrashy riff in that song. Great shouty vocals from Maddie. Oh, and that's another thing about his style. It's not like those really ultra low brutal growls. He does do that sometimes, but it's sort of incorporated with this kind of shouty voice. So in a way, it kind of reminds me of Max Cavalera from Sepultura on the Chaos AD album. His vocal style is a bit like that, but he has some variations. He does screams and low-pitched growls, but yeah, great vocals in that song, brilliant guitar solos, so that's the song that gets me pumped up. Massive Killing Capacity, great song. Then you've got On Frozen Fields, that's where they're incorporating more heavy metal melody, which is great. Crime Divine has just got this circular, chunky, heavy, catchy riff, which is brilliant, and very memorable, catchy lyrics in that song, which is good. Track 5, To the Bone, again, just so catchy with the melodies and that. I love it. Track 6 is a more extreme thrashy song, War Dead, very thrashy and relentless, which is great. Now, one of my favorite tracks, my favorite track on the album is track 7, Hallucigenia, which was written by bassist Ricard Cabeza. I think that's his name, yeah. Ricard Cabeza. He wrote the lyrics and the music in that song. It's just so incredibly catchy, and it's just got this addictive melody and everything. That song just flows so well, and the chorus is so catchy and heavy, interplaying with the lyrics and the vocals. It is just brilliant. So if you have to listen to only one song from this album, listen to Hallucigenia. It's my favorite. So great song, written by Ricard. Okay, and then Collection by Blood, again, that's going in towards that heavy metal territory again, like traditional heavy metal, which is great. Kind of an anthemic song as well, which is great. Track 9, Casket Garden, that was the single from this album, like a very catchy, heavy riff in that song, so it's brilliant. Very memorable chorus as well. Then track 10, Nina, that's a slow, melancholic instrumental. I think this band's instrumentals are just fantastic because they're so melodic and also bleak and depressive at the same time. So it's yeah, a real skill that they have when they write these. Like, you hear the emotion and the music tells a story. So Nina is a great track. And then the album closes with Life, Another Shape of Sorrow, which is appropriately depressing, and it even includes some organs at the beginning. And yeah, they often talk about that, you know, the journey to the afterlife in their lyrics, like In Death Sleep and this song. And then it's got that spoken word at the end, you know, come sweet death, take my hand and gently lead me on. Very dark and depressive. Great way to finish this album. So yeah, subtly, it became one of my favorites. Great cover art as well. I'll just show you the booklet. And so you have all the lyrics here superimposed with a picture of the band, and then pictures of the band members as well. Yeah, so like I said, a lot of people dislike this album, but I think it's absolutely fantastic, underrated, and possibly my favorite. So there you go, Dismember with Massive Killing Capacity. Alright, so now we're up to the point in their discography where I have a couple of gaps in the collection. So the two albums which came after this were Death Metal and Hate Campaign. So the first one, Death Metal, I actually owned that originally, then sold it back, then bought it back, then sold it back. It is a good album. The only problem I have with the album Death Metal, that's the title, is that the production is too raw. So you can't, the music on that album, Death Metal, is brilliant, but I just think the production doesn't do it justice because it's not bringing out the songs enough. Like, you can't hear the riffs and the melodies clearly enough. And also, the vocals are way too low in the mix. It sounds like a whisper, so great songs, but the production just didn't do it justice. But Death Metal is certainly an album worth checking out. There's some fantastic songs on that. And then this was the release which came after that. This is the single from that album, Misanthropic, so from the Death Metal album. Yes, like Venom had an album called Black Metal, Dismember had an album called Death Metal, which is quite cool. So yeah, cool disc here. And yeah, so Misanthropic, one of the great songs from the Death Metal album. And it's just got, you know, it's very sorrowful and melodic, catchy riff. Yeah, just that distinctly Swedish sound, which I love. So really great song. And showing you the disc after the booklet. But yeah, it also includes some previously unreleased songs. So I'll just check what they are. Yep, so first of all, you've got a cover of Pagan Savior by Autopsy, so Autopsy being one of their favorite bands, which is excellent. And then the next 3 tracks are unreleased originals, so Shadowlands, After Image, and Shapeshifter. They are all fantastic. And it's quite funny, like this one I don't listen to that often, but after hearing those last 3 tracks recently, I should pay more attention to it because it's just great underrated death metal. So Dismember with Misanthropic. Now, the album which came out, so there was Death Metal, then this one, then the album which came after this was Hate Campaign. Hate Campaign is a good album, some great songs on that, but the same issue again. In my opinion, it was raw, too underproduced. You can't, the vocals are still like a whisper again, too low in the mix, and you can't distinguish the songs well enough. But like with the solos and the melodies, yes you can, but just with the riffs, I think they could have done a better job with production. So Death Metal and Hate Campaign, I do like those albums, but I just wish they were better produced. So I'm hoping one day they will be remastered with better production. Maybe that's me just being picky, but yeah, I think that'll do those albums justice better. All right, now the next album. This is Dismember with Where Ironcrosses Grow. It came out in 2003 or 2004. This album was a good return to form in terms of the production. I think it was produced by drummer Fred Estby, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, what I was thinking earlier on today when I was listening to these latter day albums is the production is so much better. I think Fred was a good engineer and producer. They just sound really brutal and chunky, and the bass is really prominent in the mix. So after those two Raw albums, they finally corrected themselves with the production on these albums. Like, the bass is the driving force, and it's fantastic. So really like this album. And this is one broken case, sorry. This is one I don't listen to as often as the others, but I was thinking again I should listen to it more. Great artwork. And picture of the band. They were a four-piece because Rickard had left, so I think it was David Blomqvist who played bass on this album. Maddie looking like a Swedish Viking there. And yeah, this is another great album. The only thing with some of these latter day albums, I find that there aren't as many standout tracks, but overall it's still a really good listen. My two favorite tracks on this, actually, Where Ironcrosses Grow, the title track which opens the album, is great. My two favorites though are track 3, Me God, that's the name of the, that's very influenced by Autopsy, that down-tuned, sludgy, slow, haunting, doomy riffing, which is fantastic. And then also track 4, Tragedy of the Faithful. The conclusion of that song, it's got some Maiden-esque melodies, and that lick, that melody, that riff they do, which goes on and on and on, it's just so catchy and hypnotic, it's brilliant. So two favorites, Me God and Tragedy of the Faithful. Then three songs which I've come to appreciate more with their sheer relentless brutality are the next three tracks: Chasing the Serpent, Where Angels Fear to Tread, and Sword of Light. Sword of Light is brilliant. And then they've got As the Coins Upon Your Eyes, Children of the Cross, and As I Pull the Trigger. So really good album. I think I just need to pay more attention to this one. As I said, there's not as many standout tracks as perhaps some of the early albums, but still some fantastic stuff on here. And like I said, some of these tracks are growing on me. So in my opinion, this was a good return to form in terms of the production, and it's an underrated album by Dismember. So don't just stick to the early stuff, check this out as well. So Dismember with Where Ironcrosses Grow. Okay, and the last album I'm going to show you today, this is Dismember with, forgotten the title, that's bad, isn't it? The God That Never Was. I was just listening to it before too, what's wrong with me? Okay, yeah, so first of all, cool cover art. I love this. And that's shown on the disc as well. So on this album, you've got, I consider it the sister album to Where Ironcrosses Grow, like very similar production, which I said is a good thing. The bass is the driving force and you can hear the riffs clearly, which is good. Good variety of tempos on this album as well, just like with Where Ironcrosses Grow, so they are very similar. Between the two, I may like this one a little bit more actually, just because there's a bit more variety musically. But again, no bad songs on this one really. My favorites would be Time Heals Nothing with that classic Dismember melody in the riffs where it's sort of melancholic and sorrowful. Also the track Autopsy. That must be a tribute to the band Autopsy, because they have those slow, doomy, sludgy, heavy riffs, and lyrically it's very much inspired by the band Autopsy, so fantastic stuff. I also like Never Forget, Never Forgive, like more, it's just a riff salad, that song, brilliant. Trail of the Dead is really good as well. Phantoms of the Oath, that is another fantastic instrumental. You know, again, showcasing and illustrating their ability to capture this melancholy and sorrow so well in their music, and the music tells a story, it's really good. And then the other two songs which are really good for riffs, I think, were Blood for Paradise and Feel the Darkness. But yeah, fantastic, really, really good. So, just show you the booklet here. The lyrics aren't that readable. Again, a four-piece, they didn't have a permanent bass player. And at this time, I think Martin Persson had replaced Robert Sennebeck on guitar. But of course now Rickard's back in the band, with the band having reformed. But yes, this is, if you just like, no bullshit, heavy, solid death metal, you will love this. So check it out. Yeah, as I said, my favorite songs: Time Heals Nothing, Autopsy, Never Forget, Never Forgive, Trail of the Dead, Phantoms of the Oath, Blood for Paradise, and Feel the Darkness. So that's the majority of the album. So brilliant stuff. Dismember with The God That Never Was. I can't believe I forgot it again. All right, and then of course, the last album which came out was the self-titled one called Dismember. I don't actually own that. Why? I don't know. I just never got around to it. Shame on me, because Dismember's one of my favorite bands. So what do you guys think of that album? You know, I'm sometimes this purist where I don't listen to an album until I buy it, but I'm sure it's good because Dismember's never really released a bad album. So there you go. That's my Dismember collection. What's your favorite Dismember album? Let me know. So just before I go, remember my competition, my thread, which is called Never Judge a Book by Its Cover. Entries will close in a few days, 31st of July. So far, a few people have entered, made videos, so thanks a lot, guys, and also written comments. Remember, you can still be eligible. Never Judge a Book by Its Cover, that's the name of the thread, just by leaving a comment about those albums. Go and have a look at the video to check out the details, and then I will make the draw next week. So, yeah, hope to see. I've enjoyed everyone's responses, so maybe we'll see some more. In the meantime, thanks very much everyone for continuing to watch and support the channel. Thank you to all the new subscribers, really appreciate it. And my hair tie is just broken, so good time to end this video. So in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.